We know sports.
10-foot touchdown!
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios. Here's Josh Hennig.
Wednesday, hump day edition of Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. I am Josh Hennig, live in the Matt Black Kia Studios. Eagles, Bucs, the countdown is on. Super Wild Card Weekend is this weekend, and you can hear all the action right here on 97.3 ESPN all weekend long. We'll get deeper into the Eagles and the Bucs today with Dave Weinberg for another edition of Weinberg Wednesday here on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, you can join the conversation on the text board at 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. You can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Thanks to First Bank of CLC, and we are live on YouTube at 97.3 ESPN. You know, as we get closer to Eagles game day, I've had a lot of people, whether it's during the show or when I've seen people out and about, who have asked me the question. And they've asked it very consistently. And it's a very fair question to ask. Are the Eagles realistically in this game? And I think it's not a crazy question to ask, because I understand that a lot of people still view this team as a team that shouldn't be here, maybe shouldn't have gotten to the postseason, all that kind of stuff. And, you know, as I wrote about at 973ESPN.com and on the 973 ESPN mobile app, there is a variable with this game that is nothing to do with Tom Brady or the Eagles offense or defense directly, but it will impact all participants. That is the weather. And I never thought I would actually be leaning into weather talk in a conversation like this. But it is significant to point out that according to weather.com, there is a 74% chance of rain with 20 to 30 mile per hour winds and high wind gusts possible down in Tampa. So it's not going to be ideal weather conditions. And if you ever listen to players talk, players always say the rain doesn't bother us as much as the wind. I've heard that like a gazillion times in my life. And earlier today, Mike Evans, the Pro Bowl wide receiver for the Bucs, he said this to the media about the situation with the weather. And this was the first time that I kind of took a step back and said, wait a minute, this is something, because it's not, you know, the average guy saying it. This is someone who has 8 straight seasons of 1,000 receiving yards, the first receiver in NFL history to start his career with 8 consecutive 1,000 receiving yard seasons. The dude's a stud. The dude, as Mike Gillis put, is the reason why Johnny Manziel was drafted in the first round. Mike Evans is one of the premier receivers in this game. This is what he said to the media today.
There's an expectation for some weather, some rain, some wind gusts. From a receiver standpoint, how does that impact you as far as maybe, I know you never want to give up on a ball, but it may allow you to have play a ball differently?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if the rain is really bad, then, I mean, obviously it affects the receiver position the most. DBs start getting happy because it's hard to catch a ball wide open in the rain if it's really bad. But we're professionals. I mean, we played in Tampa. I've been here for a long time now. So you got to have the right gloves on or go bare hands. And you got to try to make the play.
When I heard him say that was Rob Motti, who will be on the Sports Bash tomorrow here on 97.3 ESPN, asking that question. When I heard that answer, that's when I started thinking, this weather thing might be something. Because for a guy like that to say, oh yeah, it's something to be concerned about. Hold on a minute. Time out. The Eagles are a team that likes to run the ball. The Eagles don't need to pass the ball to win a game in the NFL. They are not a pass-dependent team. And with that being understood, you're looking at a game where the Eagles are going to have the weather in their favor, because wind and rain does not favor the team with the 5,000-yard passing quarterback. It favors the team that likes to get in the mud, grind it out, run the ball, not take risks. If I'm the Eagles, I look at the weather forecast and I say, you know what? We can win this game because we can make it ugly. The Eagles are the team best equipped in the NFL to make a game ugly. And I think that going into this game, if I'm the Eagles, I seriously believe that I can win this game. Now, Josh Hennig, am not saying they're going to win the game. That's not my pick for the game. I'll give you my pick officially when we get to a little bit later in the week. But I'm telling you guys right here, right now, there is something to this team and the weather. And I am not going to discount it, because I already saw earlier this year the New England Patriots throw the ball, what was it, only 2 or 3 times with Mac Jones? They ran the ball and dominated Buffalo. We've already seen the formula just this season. Another team who I personally think the Eagles have a better offensive line than the New England Patriots. I think that the Eagles' O-line has more power behind it. So for me, I think that the Eagles can replicate what the Patriots did to Buffalo to Tampa. It's not a guarantee they'll win, but it's a safe thing to assume that the Eagles can have their way running the ball. They keep the ball away from Brady. They give him less opportunities to actually go out there and score. Michael Robinson, the former Penn State quarterback, played in the NFL as a running back and a fullback, was a Pro Bowler. This is what he said on NFL Network on their, I think it was NFL Total Access. That's the name of the show. There's so many NFL Network shows. It's NFL Total Access that he was on. Take a listen.
They're the top rushing team in the National Football League. I don't expect that to change. Run the ball, and when you get tired of running it, run it again. you think about throwing it, forget that, and run the ball again. Jalen Hurts might have 200 rushing yards, guys, and I'm not joking, okay? Make this game dirty. Make it nasty. You playing with house money, right? Everybody thought the Philadelphia Eagles were in a rebuild mode. Nobody expected this team to even be here, right? But they got to the playoffs. They found their identity in the middle of the season. They turned into one of the most physical teams in the National Football League. Continue to be physical. Jalen, this is your time, right? You playing with house money, man. Go out there and move on to the next round.
Now, look, I don't think Jalen Hurts is going to go for 200 rushing yards, but Mike Robb makes a great point. This is an Eagles team that found their identity. Nobody expected to be here. Stick to what got you here. Be the team that's going to be more physical. Be the team that's going to go out there, crack some heads, make it a little dirty, make it ugly. Listen, winning doesn't have to be aesthetic. Okay, we get so hung up sometimes about, how good somebody or something looks in terms of, perception and how good it looks and how great. Now, it doesn't matter if it's aesthetically a good win. It just matters if you win. It doesn't matter how you win. You know, if the Eagles go out there and it's a 17-17 game, okay, going into the fourth quarter, and it's just an ugly running game, and it's just, there's rain and there's wind, and it's not a good fantasy football kind of day. It's not a game for a lot of points to be scored. Frankly, I think the Eagles went and did their job then, right? They're competitive with the guy who's got 7 rings on his hand, who had 5,000 passing yards this year. It's a big deal. It's something to look for as we get into the postseason. The teams that can run the ball, will they keep running the ball? I think the Eagles need to do that. If they keep doing that, they have a chance to beat Tampa. So for everyone who's asked me, is it unrealistic to think the Eagles have a chance to win this game? I will say it again. It is not unrealistic. You can get all the further details, everything we just talked about right now over at 973ESPN.com, the 973 ESPN mobile app. I'm Josh Hennig here hanging out with you. Coming up on the other side, talk more Eagles and NFL for a Weinberg Wednesday. Dave Weinberg joins us coming up on the other side right here on 973 ESPN FM, the 973 ESPN mobile app, and we are live on YouTube at 973 ESPN. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night being brought to you by my friends over at the FanDuel Sportsbook inside Bally's Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City. The NFL playoffs are here, and you can catch all the action right off the Atlantic City Boardwalk at the FanDuel Sportsbook. It's time to get on all the games you love. Experience sports betting done right with live streaming games, food and beverage, self-service betting kiosks, and more. Get your game face on, score big this NFL weekend when you bet at FanDuel Sportsbook, only inside Bally's Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
This is the radio home for Eagles playoff football. It's the NFC Wild Card Round this Sunday with the Eagles in Tampa to face Brady and the Bucs.
Brady back. He lets it go. He is going deep, and it is intercepted. And it is picked off by Harris.
Pre-game coverage begins at noon. Maryland Mike had the call starting at 1. This is where Eagles playoff football happens. 97.3 ESPN, South Jersey's Eagles station.
EMT Solar and Roofing and Solar Guardians. Start your solar journey today by visiting espnsolar.com.
Matt Platt Nissan is now open on the Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township, next to Home Depot. Get out of that old car, truck, or SUV and into a brand new Nissan. The all-new Matt Platt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township, or visit us online, mattplattnissan.com.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig talking Eagles, Bucs, and NFL today on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN, live here in the Matt Platt Kia Studios. Before we get to Dave Weinberg for a Weinberg Wednesday, I want to address one text that came in, because the texter said at 609-403-0973, sorry, not seeing the Eagles winning. That's all he said. And my reply to texter is, I didn't say I was picking the Eagles to win outright the game. I'm just telling you that there's a path to victory, and it's not unrealistic if they were to win, because if you make the playoffs, you have a chance. Crazy things happen, and when you have bad weather in the forecast, it's potentially going to be an ugly game, which favors the Eagles. The Eagles, guess what, could lose 27-20. You know what that means? They covered the spread, and it's a one-score game. That's all I'm saying. I just don't see it being a blowout. Maybe I'm wrong. Joining us right now to talk more about the Eagles in the NFL, Dave Weinberg joined us for an edition of Weinberg Wednesday here on 97.3 ESPN. Dave, how you doing today?
Doing well, Josh. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Dave, am I wrong? Am I wrong to say that I just don't think this is going to be a blowout?
It depends on your definition of blowout. I personally think Tampa will cover the spread, but
Okay.
I think it'll be like a 10-point game. Maybe I don't know, maybe like 28-18, 27-17, something like that. I'm just like I know that you said I know the weather's not supposed to be the greatest, but Tom Brady can produce in all kinds of conditions. I don't think that's going to be as much of a factor, and I think bad weather might even like hurt the Eagles a little bit. I don't know if their running game is going to be able to get enough traction. And I'll tell you one thing though: if they fall behind like they've been doing, then it's game over. It's going to be a boat race. They're going to get hammered.
Yeah, Dave, my thing is just that to me, I've already seen a team be hyper committed to running the ball, the Patriots against the Bills.
Mhm.
And I just saw that game and I was like, the Eagles are basically could be that team. And
Okay.
to me, if the Eagles can at least keep the time of possession, either close or they can win it, Brady has less opportunities to score. I don't think you're going to per se stop Brady, though. To me, it's just people have been asking me, Dave, and I'll throw the question to you then. People are asking, is it unrealistic to believe the Eagles can be competitive in this game? I just don't think it's unrealistic. What do you think?
Oh, no, not at all. Oh, you're absolutely right. I mean, there is a path to victory if they can control the clock, like you said, and keep Brady. The longer you can keep Brady on the sideline, the better chance you have. And Eagles have proven they can do that with their running game. I don't see it happening, but I think it's possible. Seems like the Bucs are getting a little bit healthier, from what I understand. Leonard Fournette was back at practice today.
Right.
A couple other guys too, Lavonte David, although I don't know if he's going to be able to play or not. Their top pass rusher is back, I believe, as well. So Shaq Barrett. So I think it's going to be a little bit harder, but it's definitely not impossible. I mean, it's not like they're they're incapable of competing. I mean, like I expect like Kansas City to completely annihilate Pittsburgh. I don't see that happening in Tampa.
Dave, when we talk about the Eagles being competitive, to me, part of that is the fact that something I played the audio from Michael Robinson, who went to Penn State, played in the NFL. He said the Eagles found their identity. And how important was it in your eyes that the Eagles figured out what they did best and stuck with it for the rest of the year?
Oh, very important. Yeah. To give credit to Nick Sirianni for realizing that you can't throw the ball 40 times a game and expect to win, especially with Jalen Hurts as your quarterback. They have a more balanced game now, running game now. I mean, more balanced attack. They've been able to have some success on the ground, a lot of success, really. I mean, if they can stick to that formula, they do have a shot. Again, I don't think that's going to happen, but I don't think it'll be a blowout, though. No.
Dave Weinberg joining us for a Weinberg Wednesday here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN, at Dave Weinberg 19 on Twitter. Extra point columns over at 97.3 ESPN.com. Dave, looking back on the Eagles season, something you have written some about over on the website, to me, I think the fact that this team exceeded expectations is a good sign they're at least moving in the right direction. But with that being said, how important is to keep that train moving, and how do they keep moving in the right direction this offseason?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely exceeded expectations, like you said. And I thought they were going to win maybe 4 or 5 games and, wind up the winning record and making the playoffs. So definitely a success. It's really tough to read a team from year to year, especially in off season. I mean, you even look at a schedule and you think, okay, this is going to be easy or this is going to be hard, but you really don't know until you get to the year. And, teams that are expected to stink wind up being pretty good and vice versa. So, but if they have to really hit on those draft picks, that's one thing. I mean, I don't know if they're going to keep all 3 of the first round, but if they do, I would focus on defense and bolster that. They could very well package, 1 or 2 and then move up really high to get like a so-called stud if they think there's one available for them to be had. But yeah, I think it's a really important offseason for them. Like they weren't supposed to be this good, but now that they are, then it's important to maintain it, to not take a step back in year 2 of the Sirianni era, as it was.
Yeah, and with those 3 draft picks, with the offseason having more cap space, to me, is a whole nother set of expectations because now it goes
Hmm.
from just this was a rebuilding transition season to now,
Right.
hey, you made the postseason. Now, how are you going to be better than this year? And I'm not saying they can't be, Dave, but that's a whole nother set of expectations. You've covered this team, for a long time, and you've seen how the playoffs changes the conversation around the team.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Playoffs are a whole different animal. Um, I haven't been in the locker room, obviously, but I remember in past years how you would see veterans going over to rookies and explaining to them that the playoffs are a different season. The intensity amps up. The speed of the game, believe it or not, increases. It's just a whole nother world almost. And if you're not ready for it, then you can get overwhelmed. I think it helps that some of the Eagles rookies and younger players played in big games in college. If you played for Alabama or Oklahoma, you're used to playing in national championship games or bowl games or even your home games were 100,000 people more than the Eagles draw. So you're kind of used to that atmosphere. But I do think the NFL playoffs are a different animal, and it's important for them to realize that and be prepared to meet that when it happens. To handle it. I
Dave,
mean, I'm sorry.
no, yeah, absolutely. And Dave, I mentioned the draft picks. I understand that there's a lot of consternation among the fan base about the drafting and how it rose and all that stuff. But,
Hmm.
you know, I have to look at it and say, listen, if the Eagles can at least do something similar to what they did last year, which is just go out there and say, we're going to get the best player we can in each round,
Right.
you can go out there and walk away. Even if you trade one of those picks, maybe you trade a pick and get a pick next year or something. You
Sure.
only have 2 first-round picks. If you can get the equivalent of what the guys you got this year in next year's draft, this is going to be a good thing. And I think that it changes the conversation because to me, Dave, I don't want to see this team take a step backwards after doing what they did this year. I don't care what Sirianni and the organization, what the players say. They're all going to be positive. They're going to say anything negative, right? But
Right.
listen, we all saw it. This team has strengths, but it has very specific weaknesses as well that need to be addressed.
Right, right. They do, especially on the defensive side of the ball, I think. And you need another wide receiver to go with Devontae Smith. Maybe a free agency is the way to go in that era. I mean, that era, yeah, you can maybe get a veteran who can kind of show everybody the ropes at that position. But I do think defense is the way to go. I think you can never have enough, pass rushers or even interior defensive linemen. Secondary, I think, has to be upgraded a little bit. So, yeah, I mean, it's really important for them, and people have to realize. I mean, I know the expectation is going to be higher, but it's going to be a bigger challenge for them. They're not playing the last place schedule next year. They're going to be playing the second place schedule,
Yeah.
and in theory, at least, that means tougher games against tougher opponents. So it'll be interesting to see how they make the adjustment.
You mentioned about the wide receiver. I personally want to see them go get a guy like Allen Robinson to
Hmm.
put across from Smith. I wanted to see them get a guy who is not a replication of what you already have. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't want to see another version of Rager and Watkins and Smith or whoever else. Like, I
Hmm.
want to see this team specifically needs a go get it at receiver whose name isn't Smith and Goddard. And to me, whether that is a Robinson or somebody else, I think that you should get a veteran in here. I've seen them draft enough wide receivers. All right, we've gone through that period, right?
Yep.
Let's get a real veteran in here whose name isn't Greg Ward.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they've tried it in the past with various degrees of success, but yeah, it's important not only for the on-field production, but in the locker room. We've talked all season about the need for uh, veteran leadership to kind of right the ship when things get rocky or they find themselves running into trouble, and a veteran wide receiver will do that. I mean, granted, Devontae Smith is your star, but you need a steadying influence there that has been around for a little while and knows what it takes to sustain success in the NFL.
Dave, I want to ask you about another NFL conversation, and that is the head coach openings. And,
Hmm.
you know, obviously Doug Peterson's name being thrown about a lot of these jobs, but I have one concern going in, and that is I understand that Doug is probably going to interview for almost every job. And honestly, he should. He's a Super Bowl winning coach.
Yep.
And he has as good, if not better, resume than almost anybody available.
Mm-hmm.
But I look at an organization like the Dolphins and the Vikings, and I have serious concerns if I'm a coaching candidate about their ownership, because you have a Dolphins owner who fired a coach who the players liked in favor of a GM.
Uh-huh.
And you have a Minnesota team that kept Zimmer for a long time. And now the players coming out and basically make it sound like Zimmer was basically a tyrant, basically.
Right.
The players didn't like him.
Mm-hmm.
If ownership is that just tone deaf to what's going on with their organization, if you're a head coach, do you really want to be the guy who walks in there and has to try to pick up the pieces and maybe be in a no-win situation?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the Dolphins never should have fired Brian Flores. I mean, back-to-back winning seasons after they had like maybe one in the last 20 years or so, the previous 20 years or something like that. It's that was really shocking to me, and I don't understand it at all. But yeah, Doug has the advantage though that he has he'll probably have his pick of jobs, so he can pick and choose like which one he really wants to entertain. There's been a lot out there about him being very close to Dan Marino, so I guess Marino will have some influence over him when it comes to the Dolphins. But yeah, you're right. I mean, he's been around long enough that he knows that he doesn't have to take a job that he really doesn't want. I mean, he has nothing to prove. So he's not like a Nick Sirianni who just wants the opportunity to try and take advantage of it no matter what. So yeah, he can go to maybe Jacksonville is the spot for him. I don't know, or Miami, or I would probably stay away from Miami and Minnesota. I'm like you. Chicago might be interesting, I think. I think he could probably work very well with Justin Fields. He played in Green Bay and coached there, so he knows. And he coached in Kansas City, so he knows the Midwest. He knows the culture and that kind of stuff. So maybe that would be an attractive option for him. But yeah, you're perfectly right about the atmosphere in Miami and Minnesota. It definitely isn't the best, and I don't know that he'd be willing to put himself through that again after the way things ended in Philly.
Is it a serious conversation of Doug Peterson's candidacy for the Giants head coach opening?
I would run away very fast if I was him. I just don't. I don't see. That's just a dumpster fire there. I don't see that. I don't know how anybody would want to coach there.
Well, Dave, my favorite part is, I don't know if you heard the story earlier today, but we talked about it a little bit earlier. So John Mara told the networks to not air his press conference live.
Really?
He told NFL Network, WFAN, and MSG to not air it live. They could only air it on delay, basically. And
that's bizarre.
And nobody understands why they requested it, but all the networks obliged. They waited till he was done. They had it on tape record, basically, and aired it after it was live.
Maybe he didn't want to answer questions or something. I don't know.
I don't know, but talk about an organization that's they don't get it, Dave. They do not get it.
At least not recently, that's for sure.
It's sad because that's an organization that has so much football history, back to the 50s, for goodness sake.
Right.
And it's like,
true.
In the last several years, they've gone from being like one of the standards of the NFL to being the Jets. Yeah,
it's a shame because you're right. They are. I think they're probably one of the. I'm pretty sure they're one of the original franchises, and you're right. They have such a steep history in the NFL and some success not too long ago with Eli Manning and winning a Super Bowl, and but yet to see them fall the way they have, that's disappointing, isn't it? And it's bad for the league too. I mean, it's one of the marquee franchises, your top media market. So yet to see them struggle is tough to watch.
Yeah, your two New York teams are both losing teams at the same time. Like, I feel like the league needs one of them to be good.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know who's going to do it first because, I mean, they got to hire a GM, they got to hire a head coach. Yeah, Doug needs to stay away from there. To me, Doug should stay away from Miami, the Giants, and the Vikings.
Yeah.
Any other job is fine. I like your idea of Chicago because of the fact that, Justin Fields needs a real coach over there. No offense to Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy I've heard a lot of stories. He's a very nice guy. He's a very good human being. But I feel like Nagy was handed a no-win situation over there. They drafted the quarterback before he got there. Then they bring in Fields, and Fields wasn't ready to start in the NFL day one. He was going from an offense that was completely different in college to the pros. And now if Chicago brings in the right GM who's going to be there to build, I could totally see them bringing in Doug Peterson, and he's a guy who can go to Justin Fields and be like, hey, man, I've worked with mobile quarterbacks, and I've been the guy who's played with mobile quarterbacks. For example, Donovan McNabb, and say, look, I look at you and I think you can be better than Donovan McNabb. I mean, that's a conversation he can have with Justin Fields.
Yeah, I mean, he has the pedigree that commands respect. I mean, the players have no choice but to listen to him. I mean, like you say, you're talking about a Super Bowl winning coach, a guy who played in the league, which carries a lot of importance with players. I mean, he knows what they're going through. He knows, how they're feeling and that kind of stuff. And yeah, I think he would be a very good pick there. He'd be a good pick no matter where he goes. But yeah, Chicago, I think, would be a pretty good fit for him.
Yep,
although
the other
Jacksonville really intrigues me too.
Jacksonville's interesting.
Trevor Lawrence there.
My only problem with Jacksonville is Balky is still there, the GM.
Yeah, and their owner's a nut job.
And he's a guy who doesn't get along with people. I don't know what his deal is. He has a long history of having trouble getting along with people. So I don't know what that's about. The other job I think is interesting for Doug is Denver, because there's a lot of speculation that George Payton, who's now the GM in Denver, was the guy who made the draft picks in Minnesota that built those teams. So, to me, if you have a good GM who understands how to build a team, Doug can just kind of slide right in there to a team that was decently competitive this year. They just need a few more pieces, like a quarterback, like a few more players.
Right.
And they could have made the playoffs even this year with the limited options they had.
Yep, very true. Yep, you're right there.
Dave, I'm a little sad though. College football season's done. And I'm not just sad because I was on a heater and I went 9-1 on my last 10 college football picks. I'm sad because I do love college football. The national championship game was really cool. I know a lot of people were kind of like, oh, it's Georgia, Alabama again. I thought it was a great game. I want to know what you thought, because I thought it was cool that Georgia finally won the Natty. I thought it was a fun game overall. And there's a ton of NFL talent on that field.
Yeah, I was really impressed. I really enjoyed it. Not as much as the Chargers Raiders game, but it was it was a really cool atmosphere, a really cool intensity, excitement. Both teams, you thought Alabama was going to put it away, and then Stetson comes back and leads Georgia back to the title. And I mean, that's a memory he can, he's going to be a god in Georgia for the rest of his life. And so yeah, it was a really cool game to watch, and I really enjoyed it as well.
Stetson's going to have a movie soon. We all know that. I mean, if Kurt Warner
by the way, did you see his interview the next day though? Good Morning America. Oh my God! I saw
the highlights. That was so awkward.
Oh, that was so bad. Oh my gosh! And I don't know what they were thinking, putting the kid on at 8:00 in the morning. A couple hours after winning the title and celebrating and all that. I mean, I don't know if he was hungover or still drunk or tired or what, but that was just brutal.
Maybe all three, for all I know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And deservedly so, yeah.
I mean, listen, you should be able to go out and celebrate. You know what the problem is, Dave? And you know how it is in this business. Sometimes the people who are doing the coordinating for this stuff have no comprehension of anything except for, I'm going to land this interview.
Right. I'm going to get the first one. Yeah, that's true.
It's like, you don't need to be the first one. All right. If it's not going to be worth it.
Yep. That was proven the other day. That's for sure.
I mean, for goodness sake, we saw the interview last week, the first interview with Antonio Brown last week on that stupid podcast. He looked like he was, Dave, he looked like a sci-fi villain from the 90s with those sunglasses and that tracksuit.
That was ridiculous too. Yeah, but I didn't expect much different from him though.
The other thing with the Georgia beating Bama game is, Dave, I thought that how Nick Saban handled it should be like in the handbook of how coaches should act. He goes to Kirby Smart. He congratulates him. You even saw Nick Saban smile when they were like he was happy for Kirby. And then at the press conference after the game, he tells the media that this game doesn't define Bryce Young and Will Anderson. He speaks very highly of them. Like the way he handled the whole thing, to me, like there should be a handbook written based on Nick Saban's 24 hours of how to handle success and defeat for every coach out there.
Yeah, it was very, very impressive. I mean, I'm not a big Saban guy normally. I just don't like his attitude, his arrogance, the way he treats people other than that. But yeah, he won me over a little bit after the game, the way he conducted himself, the class, and everything that he showed. Maybe I misjudged him. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I've heard stories. I don't know how many of them are true. Obviously, you got to pick and choose, who you listen to. But there's a lot of stories that Saban is not as cut off and miserable as Belichick is. You know what I mean? That he's more of a friendly guy.
That's true, yeah.
Than Belichick is. Belichick's the guy who's just we're on the Cincinnati. Where at least Saban, like the whole thing happened. I think it was last year or this year where the guy was on the Zoom and his kid walks in and he apologizes and Saban starts talking to the kid instead of the reporter in the middle of the thing.
Right. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Like stuff like that. Like at least Saban's got at least he's got a heart. Like you gotta wonder something that Belichick has even got a heart.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, good point.
I mean, I'm not saying I love Saban either. Like Saban, if I had to pick a guy in college football, let me ask you that question before I let you go. Excluding Herm Edwards at your favorite Arizona State.
Oh, I can't exclude him. Go ahead.
I knew you were going to go there. I got to make you think a little outside the box. If you had a son right now who was going,
I do have a son, but he's 35. But go ahead.
I don't think he's going to D1 right now.
No. Look, I think his eligibility's used up.
Right. But if you had a son who was 19 years old, who was going to D1 right now, and there was one coach who walked in the living room and sat down with you and your son and talked to you, and you would just be like, you know what, we're just going with you because I know and I believe in what this guy is putting out.
Wow. I don't know. It's not Chip Kelly at UCLA. I know that. That's a good one, Josh. I don't know. When it comes to picking the college, I don't know that people should. I know that the coach is important, and there are some that are very good at it. Greg Schiano at Rutgers is known for that kind of stuff, that he can really capture a kid's attention. But you have to weigh everything when it comes to this kind of thing. The campus, the program, life after football. I don't know that the coach itself it should probably be one of the factors, I guess, but not the determining factor. Honestly, Josh, I don't think I could pick one. I really don't.
Well, I took away your first.
There, though.
I took away your first choice, so I gotta put you at a little of a disadvantage. So
can I take Sean Clark from App State?
I mean, that's fine.
My other favorite one.
I mean, if you want to put that one out there, that's fine with me. I'm not. It's your pick,
It's just not Chip Kelly. It's not Nick Saban. I don't know. Kirby Smart might be up there. He strikes me as a pretty animated, caring kind of guy. A little bit intense, but that's okay. How about you?
Well, first of all, kids need a little intense these days. I mean, the way it's how soft some parts of society are. Let's be realistic. But
who are you picking?
I mean, I liked how you mentioned Schiano. If I was a Jersey kid, if I went to a local school here, and I would definitely consider Schiano. I feel like he's got that kind of that edge to him. He's got that discipline to him. The guy that stands out to me though, that I don't think is talked about enough.
Oh, you know who I would take? I'm sorry. You know who I would take? Pat Fitzgerald from Northwestern.
Pat's a great one. Pat's a guy I feel like you'd run through a wall for, kind of thing.
Yep.
For me, the guy that I was thinking of, I don't think it's enough credit. I think Jim Harbaugh has got something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is, but the dude cares about the kids.
He does.
He wants them to get an education. He wants them to just do their best and everything. He's never thrown a kid under the bus. He's never one of these guys who goes out of his way to say anything ridiculous. You know what I mean?
True.
He's the guy that I think people don't realize he's getting these kids because he actually invests himself in them. He's not just, no offense to James Franklin. I'm sure he's a pretty nice guy, but he just says stuff sometimes that just makes me scratch my head. You know, a guy like PJ Fleck just seems like he's way too much. I feel like Kirk Ferentz is getting kids just basically because he's Kirk Ferentz at Iowa for so long.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I
like if you're from a particular state, you're probably leaning towards that university anyway. Right. If you grew up in Iowa or you grew up in Georgia or what have you, Alabama, you either want Alabama or Auburn. I mean, that's the way it is in most states anyway. New Jersey, maybe not as much, but yeah, most of those most of those coaches kind of have an inside track automatically just because of where they are.
Yeah, that's realistic. Some of them are snake oil salesmen. So,
yep.
Dave, I appreciate you jumping on. I appreciate the back and forth as always. Follow Dave on Twitter at Dave Weinberg 19 every Wednesday. Weinberg Wednesdays here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Dave, enjoy the football weekend.
Thanks, you too, Josh. Thanks for having me as always. I appreciate it.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. We hear what you guys have to say at 609-403-0973 on the text board. You can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Thanks to First Bank of Seattle City. And we are live on YouTube at 973 ESPN. I see Tom, Mike, and Hal. We got messages from all you guys coming in. I'll get to all your messages on the other side right here on Game Night with me, Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN.
It's Sixers basketball tonight on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the 76ers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Thibault with the alley-oop jam. He's stuck behind the knee, and Thibault off the mini trap down low.
The Sixers host the Charlotte Hornets. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Philadelphia 76ers basketball on your radio home of the Sixers in South Jersey. 97.3 ESPN. Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig back here in the Matt Black Kia studios here on 97.3 ESPN FM. Matt Black Kia. Then we get you approved today. Matt Black Kia, the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township. Visit them online at mattblackkia.com. As promised, we'll get some messages here over on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. You can DM the show. Thanks to First Bank of Sea Isle City. Hal in Delaware says, Josh, I think the Eagles are a better running team offensively than they were in the first meeting with the Bucs. I don't think it's going to be easy for Tampa. And I have to ask, what is your opinion on the Raiders-Bengals game on Saturday? Well, the Raiders-Bengals game, to me, my first gut instinct is it's going to be a high-scoring game. You can hear the game right here on 97.3 ESPN on Saturday. Coverage begins at 4 p.m. I know a lot of people are talking about, who's going to win the game. My biggest gut feeling is I think it's going to be a very fun, competitive game. And I think that it's going to go over the 48.5. I wouldn't be surprised if it was like a 30, 28, 30, 27, 35, 30 kind of game, Hal. I think it's going to be a very fun game, and I'm very, very much looking forward to seeing the Raiders and the Bengals go as two of the better quarterbacks in the league, Derek Carr and his offense. I just think the Bengals are a better team than the Raiders. I would personally lean Bengals. I think the 5.5 is a smelly number, though, Hal. I would stay away from that number. Mike in Hamilton says, good show again today, Josh. Thank you very much, Mike in Hamilton. He says, I think the Eagles will lose, but they will cover the spread versus the Bucs. Also, I'm a Cowboys fan, so go Cowboys. Well, Mike in Hamilton, I will not hold it against you, your Cowboys fandom. Listen, I think you're right. I think the Eagles do cover. I know Dave Weinberg disagrees with me. I think the 8.5 is just too much. I think they're losing by 7 personally. And I think the Cowboys, they have a tough matchup with the 49ers. We'll dig deeper into the NFL playoff games tomorrow here on Game Night.